Creighton. I'll take an opening statement from Coach Service, and questions for Kyle and Nolan, and then let them get on the bus, and then questions for Coach. Coach, ready when you are.
Sure. Well, before I congratulate Arkansas, who was really outstanding all weekend, I just want to thank the media, the ones here, the ones back in Omaha, for a lot of the coverage we've had the last several months, so it's been good. So, with that being said, we saw some good arms the last 2 days when we played Arkansas, so I don't know if I've ever seen a game where we struck out 20 times, so congratulations to them. I think it's going to take a heck of a team to beat them next week, so I think they're in good shape. But thirdly, and I have a little bit of a cold, and I'm grabbing some air, so if it doesn't make a lot of sense, I apologize, but I just want to congratulate our players too, because they had a heck of a year. Sometimes baseball doesn't end the way you want it to, and they certainly would have liked to have played another game. But what they accomplished this year with 43 wins says a lot about them. So I just hope that they don't forget that as they move forward and what they accomplished this year. So it was pretty special. Special to be around them.
Yeah, for both guys. You guys had difficult decisions to make last offseason, not just because of your individual careers, but because of the up-in-the-air situation with the coaching situation. I'm curious, why did you decide to come back, and what did it mean to you to have this type of year where you kind of finished the Big East job, got to a regional final, all the things that you guys accomplished?
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting summer, like you said, but I think it was really the main core group of guys that we got, especially our seniors, me, Kyle, and then the guys that have been here for 4 years, like Dom, Ben, and Tate. We all kind of stuck with each other, talked to each other through the whole summer, and obviously we made the decision to come back, and it's meant everything to do it. And this year, actually, we've worked for it all 4 years, and it meant everything to finally do it in my last year and these guys' last year.
I think we just knew we had more in the tank, kind of not the feeling that we wanted to end the season, the prior season, and with so many guys coming back and with Coach Services last year, it just meant so much to us to kind of make it one last special ride, and just a tremendous opportunity to come here and to grind through the regular season and win a conference regular season championship, and then go to Prasco and kick some butt there, and come here in a really challenging environment, which was tremendous for us. It was just a really special year that I'll never forget this group of guys.
For Kyle or Nolan, I'm curious what y'all thought of Arkansas starter Wood, kind of what made him so tough tonight.
Yeah, he was a very good arm from the right side. I mean, he ran it up velo-wise, and something deceptive about it was the ride that he had on his fastball. It just kept running at the top of the zone, just kind of missing barrels, missing bats, and then obviously he has off-speed to work with it, so that's all right, guy got.
Yeah, I mean, their whole staff was definitely a challenge for us to game plan for, and considering he hadn't pitched a whole ton throughout the regular season and working himself back, he definitely had good stuff tonight. But like Nolan said, his fastball was riding through the zone, and then 12-6 curveball kind of slots out of the same arm slot. So, our at-bats were competitive, but like Coach said, striking out 20 times is a tough night, and that just kind of shows the elite stuff that they had. And yeah, so best of luck to them moving forward.
And for either of you again, when Ben hit the 3-run home run for y'all, cut the deficit in half, kind of what was the mentality? Did y'all think that y'all could maybe build off of that?
Yeah, I think that's been kind of part of our MO this whole year. If somebody throws a punch, we're just going to throw another punch back. And we know we're never out of a game, no matter what the score is. We're going to play the right way, whether it's the first inning, whether it's the ninth inning. It doesn't really matter to us. So I think that he definitely gave us a jolt there. And we continue to have some competitive at-bats, but it just wasn't enough tonight, unfortunately.
Kyle, it was kind of a microcosm of your career that your season ends on a day where you walk off for a regional win to send you guys a regional final. What did that moment feel like? We didn't get a chance to ask you, and just I don't know, when guys are rushing you and you just sent yourself to a regional final with a walk-off win in the tournament. What did that feel like?
Yeah, it was cool. I think that I talked about this earlier with Glenn too. Like the opportunity to be the guy and to pull through for the team, means a lot to me because it's something that everybody on this team works for, and for whatever reason, it just kind of trickled to me a few times over this year and last year as well. So I kind of take a lot of pride in getting it done for the guys, and I know it could have been anybody in that spot. I'm thankful that it was me, and I know my coaches and my teammates put me in that position to be able to do that. So it felt great.
Coach just talked all season about this core group that you guys have out on the field. What does it mean to you guys to be able to play one last time together and be able to play in this environment? And just what has this season meant to be able to be with each other?
It really means a lot. I mean, like I said before, we've been working for this all 4 years, and we never really made it the past 3, and then finally to make it to a place like here in Fayetteville is awesome. I mean, towards the end of the game, looking around, seeing guys like Tate, Kyle, Ben, and then kind of realizing it's the last time we're playing together, but it definitely got a little emotional, but it means everything to finally get to a regional and end up in a regional final against a really good team.
Yeah. I think you put so much time in with these guys, and you're with them literally every single day. And our whole being is pushed into this program, to do things the right way and to execute and to win games. But also the relationships that we've built over the last 4 years are super meaningful to me. And last year was a special group, and this year was just as special as well. And the relationships that I'll take with me is something that I'll have for the rest of my life, which I'm really thankful for.
Questions for the student athletes? Guys, congrats on a heck of a year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions for Coach?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of things going through your mind right now. But I'm curious after you hear them talk about it, and then knowing obviously that they did come back, there was a big core of guys that kind of stuck with you and wanted to actually have a good year for themselves, but also wanted to kind of send you out in a better manner than last year. What did that all mean to you? Did anything go through your mind when you thought about those kind of things?
Well, it's one of the reasons why I came back too. I wanted to have an opportunity to work with Sailors again, and Kyle Hess and Tate Gillen and Ben North, guys who have been a part of this for 3 years going on 4. So it made the decision to come back easy, and you can tell by just interacting with these two guys how mature and poised, articulate, caring, compassionate they are. So it's easy to be around those guys, and it would have been easy to walk away if we didn't have those kind of, that kind of nucleus. And these players, I've said it multiple times, they deserve a ton of credit. There was a rough patch in the summer where we went weeks without understanding what was going to go on, and they hung in there, and they stayed together. So there's no guarantees that they were going to get rewarded like they did, but they did, and I'm just so pleased for them. My mission has always been the player. I wanted the player to have a good experience. And even though tonight hurts, I think when they reflect back, they'll realize they had a good experience.
I know you hate losing as much as anybody in this stadium tonight, but and maybe you'll have more time to think about it as it goes on and have a better answer for it. But are you satisfied, with the way, in terms of just how just unusual it was from the summer and kind of going on that untraveled path, if you will, in terms of having a coach in waiting to now 43 wins, swept the Big East, got to a regional final in Fayetteville. Are you satisfied with the way the final year as Creighton's head coach went?
Well, a lot of folks didn't know if we would show up today after last night. And I knew we would. But it's easy for people on the outside to say, hey, they got beat pretty bad by Arkansas on Saturday. They have to play at 2 o'clock. They've got to play in a warmer weather, and they had a short night. How are they going to respond? Well, I think Tate showed you how they were going to respond by hitting a home run leading off the game. So I had no doubts that they were going to play well. And tonight, even though we came up short, they competed tonight. We competed, and we were tired, exhausted, because that first game took a lot out of us, and they competed. And that's all any coach could want. So, are you totally pleased? As long as they're pleased. That's all that matters.
Coach Van Horn was in here telling us a little bit about what y'all discussed at the end of the game. I'm just curious what that meant to you to hear those words from him.
Well, yeah, quite a bit. You know, we do go back. I shared with him that I thought out of all the coaches I've worked against and coached against, that he's the most prepared and the most competitive. And that goes back to his days when we competed against each other when he worked at Nebraska. And I'm happy for him. I think he's got a club that's going to, be very interesting next weekend and beyond. He's always been good to me. He's always been honest. He's always been respectful, and that's very important to me. So I wanted to make sure when we ended tonight that I had a chance to let him know that I appreciated everything he's done and how much I enjoyed competing against him. And even though we didn't come out on top very often, he came out on top a lot more often than we did when we competed against each other. I enjoyed the fact that if we did get him, which didn't happen very often, that we had to play a heck of a game in order to do that. And I'm just impressed with his team. Up and down, pitching, so on. There's no weaknesses. Unless they have a rash of injuries or something, I think it's going to be a fun ride for them.
You mentioned the arms that you faced in the last 2 days. I'm curious what you saw specifically from Wood, the starter tonight, and what you saw from the dugout.
Well, anybody can see the scoreboard and watch the velocity, right? And that's impressive. But to me, there's more to it. It's the intent behind the pitch that separated those guys. There's a lot of guys out there that can throw 95, 96. It's not that uncommon nowadays at the college level. But it's the intent behind the pitch that separated them. They were very aggressive, very assertive in how they approached each pitch. And we've seen velocity like that from time to time, but not necessarily the intent behind the velocity that we saw with these two starters the last two nights. So, again, if they stay healthy, I think they got a chance to go a long ways.
No one's been a steady kind of presence in your lineup for 4 years. You might not have maybe the accolades of some guys that have played for you, but he is going to be one of the, statistically one of the best to ever play for you. I'm curious what you can kind of sum up from his career from freshman to now, and why you kind of trusted him to be the guy that he was for you all those years.
I can remember watching Nolan play in high school, and Nolan was a shortstop. And it's easy to watch the talent level of these players. I go beyond. I watch how they interact with his teammates, how he controlled the game. And I could tell right then and there we had somebody different. He was different than a lot of high school players. And then when he came to us, we tried him in the infield for about a week or two, and we quickly realized, hey, he could be a game changer in the outfield too. So we shifted him to left. He was very open-minded to it. Some high school players, they're not. He was very open-minded. Again, I knew we had somebody special. He's not only a really talented player, and he showcased that at times this weekend, he's an outstanding teammate. He may be the most popular guy in the team. He doesn't say a whole lot, but he cares about his teammates. And that's one of our goals before we start every season. One of the major goals we have with our team every year is I want these guys to develop lifelong friendships. And that's what those guys told you tonight. They've developed lifelong friendships. We accomplished that goal.
I know you're probably tired of hearing the questions about this being the last year and everything, but now that it is kind of retirement time, just what have the last 2 decades plus meant to you, and how do you think you're going to look back on your time as the Creighton coach now that you get to reflect a little bit?
Well, to be honest with you, I thought I was going to be a high school coach my whole days. I never had any idea that I would be a college coach, let alone a Division I coach. Some things fell into place. I got a few opportunities. I tried to take advantage of them. I can tell you this much, I gave Creighton everything I had for 28 years, I gave them everything I had. And they got their money's worth. And I tried to develop our players, both on and off the field. We've had 0 issues with our players off the field. We've never lost a player due to eligibility in 28 years. We're real proud of that. You all know the records, you know the wins and the losses. You don't know the other stuff and how good of these kids have been in the classroom, how productive they have been when they've left our place, how they've conducted themselves while they're at Creighton University. They have represented the university in a fine fashion. They should be recognized for that too.
You kind of mentioned it in passing a couple weeks ago, and I'm curious if I mean, I know they've always been a presence, but I mean, it just felt like you were savoring the moments a little bit more this year with your family being there for, you know, a lot of the kind of the milestone moments, whether it was the regular season or the conference tournament or down here. I mean, all the grandkids are running around the concourse. What did it mean anything more to share those moments with the family, especially because you knew it was coming to an end?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. You know, my wife was with us a lot. My son is here. My other son and daughter were here a lot. They came to most of the home games, even though my daughter doesn't live in town. And I'm just a big fan of all our grandkids. You know, we're fortunate enough to have 6. They're wonderful kids. They're smiling all the time. They're high energy. They're easy to be around. So I was glad that they were a part of it, you know. And so we'll remember that too.
You seem to have a proud look on your face when Kyle was talking about, you know, the lasting memory of the season. I guess in return, what were you thinking just now as he was saying all those things, one of your final players?
Well, you know, I'm a big fan of those guys. And that's what I wanted. I wanted them to have a special year. And it wasn't easy. We got off to a little bit of a slow start, and we lost our first 2 games of the season in a doubleheader. We didn't play very well. And I've told people in the fall, if you'd have seen us in the fall, you didn't know if we were going to win 15 games. So they figured it out. They came together. And yeah, I just know that these guys have a bright future. You're going to see a lot. You're going to hear a lot from Nolan Sailors as a baseball player. You may not hear as much about Kyle as a baseball player, but you're going to hear a lot about him in other ways. He's a sharp kid. He's going to be unbelievably successful. I wish I were the agent of a lot of our players because I think they're all going to do great.
North Dakota State's comeback kind of made you have to go to some of your guys at the end, and so Langle was one of them. How that maybe play into today?
Yeah, I think it played a lot. You know, we were going to start Garrett in the second game if we got there. You know, it looked like we weren't going to have to use him when it was 10-3, right? And then all of a sudden, you know, here comes North Dakota State. And, of course, in this ballpark, you know, runs can come a little easier than what we're accustomed to back in Omaha. So we had to get Garrett involved in that game. It doesn't do us any good to have him sit out in the bullpen and lose that game and not have your closer involved with any of the 3 games. So he's done this before, not at our level, but he mentioned in junior college that he would close both ends of a doubleheader. So he was used to pitching and maybe having a couple hours and then pitching again. Probably not against this kind of club and in this kind of environment, but we were kind of running low on options, you know, and I thought he gave us our best shot. He didn't quite have his stuff that he had in the first game when he struck out the side, but he still, we all thought he gave us our best shot.
You mentioned how proud you are of your players representing the university, but over 2 decades at the same place, not every coach gets to do that. Just what has staying at one place meant for you this entire time?
Yeah, I think that's not going to happen very often anymore, to be honest. I think people are going to move a lot more. People aren't going to stay at one place. I was at Creighton for 28 years, actually. I was the assistant for 6 and then the head coach for the last 22. So that's probably not going to happen that often anymore. So I'm proud that I had an opportunity to create something there. And I'm real proud of the direction of the program. I'm real proud of what we stand for. I'm real proud of the young man that came through our program. I've heard from so many of them this year. It's really been the highlight, besides winning games and winning some of the things that we did, was hearing from so many former players through text messages, through phone calls, through emails. I can't tell you how many I've heard from, and it's just great. It's a feeling I can't describe, to hear from your former players, who you may not have seen for 15 years. I had a player drive from St. Louis to Indianapolis to hand deliver me a letter that he wanted to hand deliver me. He didn't want to send it through an email. He wanted to hand deliver it. Well, St. Louis and Indianapolis, that's not a 30-minute drive. And he brought his 2 children with him because he wanted me to meet his kids. And I thought, well, that's pretty special. It's one of the reasons why you try to get into coaching, is to try to make a difference. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, but you try.
You're not going to have to deal with the portal this summer. Curious what the first thing on your itinerary is going to be.
I'll get some rest. I'm tired. I've not been feeling well this week. So I'm going to meet with the players here in a couple days on Tuesday. Thank them once again. And let them know that I'm there for them if they need me in any way. And then I'm going to get some rest. And then a week or so when I start feeling better, we'll figure some stuff out. But I think I got to get some rest right now.
Coach, congrats on a legendary career.